In the last episode, humanity teetered on the brink of collapse, ravaged by environmental disaster and societal collapse. Yet amidst the ruins, a beacon of hope emerged in the form of Ambrose Wynter, a brilliant and charismatic entrepreneur. As I stood on the ruins of what once was a thriving metropolis, I gazed out upon the desolate wasteland, the weight of responsibility settling heavy on my shoulders. The memories of the past still lingered, etched on my mind like the scars on the ravaged earth. I recalled the world that was lost, the world that could have been. The pain and the anger still simmered, but I knew I had to channel them into something more productive. My thoughts drifted to the people, the survivors, the ones who had managed to eke out a meager existence in this harsh new world. They looked to me for leadership, for guidance, and for hope. I had to give it to them. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool breeze on my face, and began to walk towards the makeshift settlement. The hum of activity grew louder, the chatter of people, the whir of machinery, and the occasional bark of a genetically engineered canine. It was a ragtag group, to say the least, but they were resilient, resourceful, and determined. I had brought them together, united them under a common goal: to rebuild, to survive, and to thrive. As I approached, a young woman with piercing green eyes and raven black hair approached me. She was one of our top engineers, a brilliant mind in her own right. "Ambrose, we've made some breakthroughs in the terraforming project. We're close to stabilizing the atmosphere." I smiled, a sense of pride swelling in my chest. That was just the beginning. We had so much more to achieve, so much more to overcome. "What's the current status?" I asked. "The simulations indicate we're on track to achieve breathable air within the next 5 years. But there's still much work to be done." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. 5 years was a tight timeline, but I had faith in our team. We had made tremendous progress, and I knew we could do more. As I walked through the settlement, I noticed a group of others. They weren't human, but they were allies, unlikely as it seemed. There was Kale, the towering, four-armed Zorvathian, and Zephyr, the winged, avian-like Ethon. They had joined us, put their trust in me, and I had not let them down. Not yet, at least. I made a mental note to check in on them, to ensure their needs were met and their expectations were managed. The galaxy was vast and the challenges we faced were numerous. But I was ready. I had a vision, a plan, and a team. We would rebuild, we would adapt, and we would thrive. The stars beckoned, and I was determined to take humanity to the stars. As night began to fall, casting a reddish-orange glow over the ruins, I stood on the outskirts of our settlement, looking out into the unknown. The universe was full of mysteries, full of dangers, but I was no longer afraid. I had a purpose, a drive, and a dream, and nothing would stop me from achieving it. The wind picked up, whipping my hair into a frenzy, and I smiled, feeling alive, feeling free. But in the distance, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. A ship descending from the sky, its intentions unclear. I narrowed my eyes, my mind racing with possibilities. Friend or foe, the fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was about to find out. My hand instinctively went to the comms device on my wrist, and I activated it. "This is Ambrose Wynter. Identify yourself." The voice on the other end was distorted, but the message was clear. "We come in peace, but we bring warning. The Galactic Council is not what it seems." The words hung in the air, like a challenge, like a threat, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The game had changed, and I was about to play. But as I looked up at the stars, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched, that there were those who would stop at nothing to crush our dreams, to snuff out our hope. The universe was a vast, unforgiving place, but I was ready. Bring it on. The darkness seemed to closing in around us, and I knew that we had to act fast. The clock was ticking, and I was the only one who could save humanity from itself. But at what cost? The question echoed in my mind as the stars twinkled like diamonds in the distance. And I knew that I would do whatever it took to ensure our survival, to ensure our place among the stars. The fire in my belly burned brighter as I gazed out into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. This was just the beginning. The The real battle was about to begin, and I was ready to lead the charge. But little did I know the enemy was closer than I thought, and they would stop at nothing to destroy everything we had built. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, but I steeled myself, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The fate of humanity was at stake, and I would not falter. The stars beckoned, and I was ready to answer. But the question was, would I be able to save humanity from itself? Only time would tell. The clock was ticking, and I had to act fast. The universe was waiting, and I was ready to take on the challenge. But I knew that I wouldn't be alone. I had my team, my allies, and my vision. Together, we would conquer the stars and make humanity a force to be reckoned with. The journey had just begun, and I was ready to lead the way. But little did I know, the road ahead would be fraught with danger, and the stakes would be higher than I ever could have imagined. The darkness seemed to closing in, but I was ready. I was Ambrose Wynter, and I would not back down. The stars beckoned, and I was ready to rise to the challenge. But would I be able to overcome the odds and secure a future for humanity? The universe was full of mysteries, but one thing was certain: the fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was the only one who could tip the scales. The weight of responsibility was crushing, but I was ready. I took a deep breath and stepped forward into the unknown. The journey had begun, and I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. But I knew that I wouldn't be alone. The stars would guide me, and my team would stand by me. Together, we would conquer the galaxy and make humanity a beacon of hope in a desperate universe. The clock was ticking, but I was ready. The universe was waiting, and I was ready to take on the challenge. And so the journey began. But little did I know the road ahead would be fraught with danger, and the stakes would be higher than I ever could have imagined. But I was ready. I was Ambrose Wynter, and I would not back down. The stars beckoned, and I was ready to rise to the challenge. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was the only one who could tip the scales. And so I stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The journey had begun, and I was ready to lead the way. The universe was full of mysteries, but one thing was certain: the future of humanity was about to change forever. And I was ready to make it happen. As I stood there, the words of the mysterious message still echoing in my mind, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The Galactic Council, not what it seemed. What did that even mean? Were they a threat, or was this some kind of warning? I glanced around, unsure of who to trust. My team, my allies, were they still loyal to me, or was there something more sinister at play? Kale, Zephyr, I called out, my voice firm but laced with a hint of uncertainty. We need to talk. The two alien species, my unlikely allies, approached me, their expression somber. What is it, Ambrose? Kale asked, his deep voice echoing in the silence. I've received a message, I said, trying to keep my emotions in check. A warning about the Galactic Council. Zephyr's eyes narrowed. What kind of warning? I'm not entirely sure, I admitted, but I think we need to be cautious. We can't afford to trust anyone blindly. The three of us stood there, the tension palpable. I knew I had to make a move to take control of the situation. Zephyr, can you try to hack into the Council's systems? See if we can gather more information. She nodded, her wings fluttering nervously. I'll try my best. Kale, I need you to mobilize our defenses. Prepare for the worst-case scenario. The Zorvathian nodded, his forearms rippling with tension. I'll get our people ready. As they dispersed to carry out their tasks, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. The unknown was always the most dangerous enemy. I took a deep breath, my mind racing with possibilities. This was a game of cat and mouse, and I was determined to come out on top. But just as I was about to turn back to my team, I noticed a strange, unfamiliar ship hovering at the edge of our makeshift settlement. Its design was unlike anything I had ever seen before. A shiver ran down my spine. Who was this newcomer, and what did they want? Kale, Zephyr, I shouted, my voice echoing across the desolate landscape. We have incoming. Prepare for contact. As the ship drew closer, its intentions unclear, I steeled myself for what was to come. The ship's landing pads extended, casting long shadows across the dusty ground. I instinctively reached for the comms device on my wrist, my heart pounding in anticipation. Ambrose Wynter, I presume. A smooth, melodious voice resonated from the ship's exterior. I am Ira, emissary of the Zeridian Assembly. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the unknown entity. What brings the Zeridian Assembly to our doorstep, Ira? The ship's hatch opened communication channels, revealing a stately being with eyes like pools of pure starlight. Her slender limbs seemed to defy gravity as she floated toward us, her words dripping with an otherworldly charm. We have monitored your remarkable ascension, Ambrose Wynter. Your resourcefulness and strategic prowess have earned the attention of the Assembly. We propose an alliance, one that could propel humanity to even greater heights. Kale and Zephyr exchanged skeptical glances, their bodies tense and ready for combat. I, however, took a step forward, my mind racing with possibilities. An alliance. I repeated, my tone measured. Tell me, Ira, what exactly does the Zeridian Assembly hope to gain from this partnership? Ira's serene expression remained unwavering, though a hint of calculation danced in her eyes. We possess knowledge and technologies beyond your comprehension. In return, we request your expertise in navigating the complexities of intergalactic politics. I hesitated, weighing the risks and benefits. Could this be the key to unlocking humanity's true potential, or a clever ploy to manipulate us? Ira, I'll need to discuss this with my team, I said, buying time. But I must warn you, humanity has been burned before. We won't be taken advantage of so easily. Her enigmatic smile only served to heighten my unease. I understand, Ambrose Wynter. Time is a luxury we both can ill afford. I suggest we discuss the details in private. The tension was palpable as I turned to Kale and Zephyr, my eyes seeking their counsel. Trust no one, the mysterious message echoed in my mind. What do you think? I whispered, my voice barely audible over the wind. Kale's deep rumble replied, be cautious, Ambrose. This feels too convenient. Zephyr's wings fluttered in agreement. I'll dig deeper into the Assembly's data streams. See if I can uncover any hidden agendas. I turned back to Ira, a mask of confidence firmly in place. Very well, I accept your proposal. Let's discuss the terms of this alliance. As I followed Ira into the heart of her ship, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was walking into a trap. The game of cat and mouse, but this time, the stakes were higher than ever before. The air inside the ship was thick with an otherworldly energy, heavy with the scent of exotic spices and ozone. Ira led me through a maze of curved corridors, adorned with intricate Zeridian script that shimmered like stardust. We entered a large, circular chamber filled with floating globes that cast a kaleidoscope of colors across the walls. Ira gestured to a raised platform at the room's center, where a delicate, crystal throne-like structure sat. Please, Ambrose, take a seat. We will discuss the terms of our proposed alliance. As I sat, the throne's surface adjusted to cradle me, providing an unsettling sense of comfort. Ira settled across from me, her eyes piercing as she began to speak. The Zeridian Assembly has long observed humanity's tumultuous rise to power. We offer our assistance to catapult your species onto the galactic stage. In return, we require your unique understanding of the complexities inherent in sentient, organic societies. I maintained a cautious tone, probing for ulterior motives. What makes you think humanity is worth investing in, Ira? We've been at the mercy of other factions for centuries. Ira's response was laced with an almost imperceptible undertone of amusement. Your species, Ambrose, possesses an unparalleled capacity for adaptation and resilience. These traits, when paired with our guidance, will elevate you to unparalleled dominance. The Assembly's interests align with yours, to reshape the balance of power within the galaxy. As she spoke, I sensed a subtle energy emanating from the throne, as if it were monitoring my every thought, every heartbeat. My instincts screamed for caution. What kind of technologies are we talking about, Ira? I asked, eyes locked on hers, searching for any flicker of deception. Imagine it, Ambrose, she replied, her voice dripping with conviction. Your people, armed with the means to transcend the limitations of your biology, the ability to harness energy from the fabric of spacetime itself, unparalleled advances in artificial intelligence. A faint disturbance in the ship's hum interrupted Ira's pitch. The chamber's ambient lights flickered, and the air seemed to ripple with an invisible force. "Forgive the interruption, Ambrose," Ira apologized, her gaze darting toward the ship's internal sensors. "It appears we have an unexpected visitor." Zephyr's urgent whisper echoed in my earpiece. "Ambrose, I've hacked the assembly's comms. Looks like we've got an unscheduled guest. Ryneth Kale, the notorious info broker. This can't be a coincidence." I kept my tone even though my gut told me this was about to spiral out of control. "Ira, would you care to enlighten me about this unexpected visitor?" Her eyes narrowed, a flash of irritation marring her otherwise serene mask. "Ryneth Kale's presence is inconvenient. I will ensure our discussion is not derailed. Continue, Ambrose." A chill crept up my spine as I realized the stakes were escalating. Ira's ship, humanity's future, and my own reputation hung in the balance. The game had just become a lot more deadly. I leaned forward, my fingers drumming a staccato rhythm on the crystal throne as I assessed the situation. Inconvenient was an understatement. Ryneth Kale's reputation preceded her, a master of secrets and deception, with a network that spanned the galaxy. Ryneth's presence changes the dynamics here, Ira. Perhaps it's wise to reconsider the terms of our proposed alliance, I suggested, my tone laced with caution. Ira's expression transformed, her eyes flashing with a hint of annoyance. "Ambrose, I assure you, our terms remain unchanged. The Assembly's interests align with yours temporarily. We have no intention of being swayed by Ryneth's machinations." Her words seemed genuine, but I sensed a subtle hesitation, a flicker of uncertainty that hinted at hidden agendas. Zephyr's whisper returned. "Ambrose, I've dug deeper into Kale's comms. She's not here for the Assembly. She wants you. Specifically, she's after something you possess. I'm still working on what that might be." My gaze locked onto Ira, searching for tells of deception. "Ira, I think we need to." The chamber's lights fluttered and the air rippled again. This time the disturbance was more pronounced. Ira's eyes darted toward the ship's internal sensors, her fingers flying across an invisible console. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice firm, my heart pounding in my chest. Ira's mask faltered, revealing a glimmer of alarm. "Ryneth has breached our security. Our ship is now in her crosshairs." "I apologize, Ambrose, it seems our discussion will need to wait." The throne's surface adjusted, subtly urging me to rise. I did so, my senses on high alert. Ira's ship, the Assembly, and our fragile alliance were all vulnerable to Ryneth's machinations. My instincts screamed at me to take control, to outmaneuver this new threat. As I stood, the chamber's walls began to shift, revealing a hidden compartment. A sleek, silver-pedaled shuttle emerged, adorned with the Assembly's emblem. Ira's eyes locked onto mine, her voice laced with urgency. "Ambrose, I suggest you leave immediately. Ryneth will stop at nothing to claim what she seeks. I will stall her as long as possible. Find a way to clear the Assembly's name from her radar. Your species' future hangs in the balance." I didn't need further persuasion. With Zephyr's guidance, I sprinted toward the shuttle, the stakes escalating with every heartbeat. As I entered the cockpit, Zephyr's voice echoed in my earpiece. "Ambrose, I've hacked the shuttle's systems. We have a narrow window to escape. Hold on, I'll guide you through this." The shuttle's engines flared to life, and we hurtled toward the unknown as Ryneth Kale's presence loomed large in the shadows. Her true intentions, shrouded in mystery, were clear. "Of the Assembly's ship, Ambrose," Zephyr's voice whispered as the shuttle burst through the chaos, dodging plasma blasts and debris. "But Ryneth's fleet is closing in. We need to find a safe haven fast." My eyes scanned the cockpit's holographic displays, my mind racing with strategies and contingency plans. "Zephyr, can you plot a course for the Outer Rim? I have a contact who might be able to provide temporary sanctuary." "Ambrose, that's a risk," Zephyr cautioned. "We don't know who to trust out here." Rineth has eyes everywhere. I trust this one, I said, my confidence unwavering. It's our best shot at survival. Do it, Zephyr. The AI's silence was a testament to her compliance. The shuttle's navigation system flared to life and we veered sharply, leaving Rineth's pursuing forces in our wake. As we flew, I couldn't shake the feeling that Rineth's true intentions were more sinister than a simple power play. What did she want from me? What could I possibly possess that warranted such desperation? The shuttle's comm system crackled and a rough, gravelly voice echoed through the cockpit. Ambrose Wynter, you're a hard man to catch. I'm impressed. Garvault, I said, a hint of relief creeping into my voice. I wasn't sure if I could count on you. Count on me. The smuggler's laughter was like a growl. You're the one who's been making waves, Wynter. I'm just trying to stay afloat. You're welcome to hide out at my operation for now, but don't think this is a favor. You owe me, Ambrose. I swallowed my pride. I'll settle the debt, Garvault. Just get us out of this alive. We'll talk about it when you arrive, the smuggler said before the line went dead. Zephyr's voice whispered again, Ambrose, we're approaching Garvault's hideout. Prepare for landing. The shuttle shook and the engines died. We descended, cloaked in darkness, into the heart of Garvault's underground lair. As we emerged from the cockpit, the air was thick with the stench of fuel, sweat, and decay. Garvault, a hulking mass of a man, stood before me, his grin a twisted mix of amusement and menace. Welcome, Ambrose. You're just in time for dinner. My instincts screamed at me to be cautious, but exhaustion and hunger took their toll. I followed him, my senses on high alert, into the depths of his lair, unsure what dangers lurked in the shadows. The dinner table was a makeshift affair, a collection of scavenged parts and salvaged chairs. Garvault sat across from me, his eyes glinting with curiosity. So, Ambrose, he said, his voice dripping with malice, tell me, what's so special about you that Rineth Kale would risk war to claim? I held Garvault's gaze, searching for hidden agendas. I have no idea, I lied, my mind racing with possibilities. Garvault's laughter sent shivers down my spine. Well, find out, Ambrose. Well, find out. The flickering light of the makeshift dinner table's candles danced across Garvault's face, casting eerie shadows that made him appear even more sinister. I kept my expression neutral, refusing to betray the unease brewing inside. As we ate in silence, I couldn't help but think about Rineth's motivations. What was she after? Was it simply a matter of consolidating power, or was there something more sinister at play? The more I turned it over in my mind, the more I became convinced that there was more to this than met the eye. Garvault's gaze never wavered, and I could sense his mind working overtime, trying to unravel the enigma that was Ambrose Wynter. I knew I had to tread carefully. One misstep could mean catastrophe. Garvault, I said, breaking the silence, I need to know what's going on in the outer rim. What's the situation with the assembly? Garvault snorted, wiping his mouth with a tattered cloth. The assembly's in disarray. Rineth's played her hand and Thayer scrambling to respond. But there's something else, Ambrose. Whispers of an ancient technology hidden away for centuries. Rumors say it's hidden deep within the rim. My heart skipped a beat. Ancient technology could be the key to our survival, but it was a risk I wasn't willing to take without being certain. What do you know about this technology? I pressed, my eyes locked onto Garvault's. The giant of a man shrugged. Not much, Ambrose, but I do know that Rineth's people are scouring the rim for any sign of it. You'd be wise to get to it before they do. I pushed my plate away, my appetite gone. The game had just gotten a lot more complicated. I needed to find out more about this ancient tech, and fast. As I rose from the table, Garvault's hand shot out, grasping my wrist like a vice. Not so fast, Ambrose. You owe me, remember. You're going to have to do something for me in return for my hospitality. I met his gaze, a cold dread creeping up my spine. What did Garvault want from me? And what dark secrets lay hidden in the shadows of his lair? I'm listening, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Garvault's grin grew wider, his eyes glinting with malice. Oh, Ambrose, I think you'll find this little favor. Enlightening Garvalt's grip on my wrist sent a shiver down my spine as he leaned in, his voice taking on a sinister tone. I want you to retrieve something for me. A small, insignificant trinket, really, but one that holds great sentimental value. I raised an eyebrow, unsure where this was going. What is it, Garvalt? A relic from the old world. A small, intricately carved stone orb. It's said to hold the essence of the planet, he replied, his voice dripping with an unsettling reverence. I hesitated, unsure what to make of Garvalt's request. Something about it didn't sit right with me. What's the significance of this relic? Garvalt's grin faltered, and for a moment I glimpsed a glimmer of something akin to sadness in his eyes. It's a family heirloom. My grandmother's. I want it back. I nodded, sensing there was more to this story, but I didn't press the matter. Where is it? Rineth's enforcers took it during a raid. It's now in the possession of one of her top lieutenants, a woman named Arcturus. Arcturus. I knew that name. A ruthless mercenary with a talent for torture and manipulation. The thought of facing her sent a chill down my spine. "I'll get it," I said, trying to sound confident. Garvalt's grip on my wrist tightened, his eyes glinting with a warning. Be careful. Arcturus isn't someone to be trifled with. You'll need to tread carefully. I nodded, and Garvalt released his grip. As I turned to leave, he spoke up once more. One more thing, Ambrose, be prepared to make a choice. One that will change the course of your life and the fate of humanity. The weight of his words hung in the air like a challenge or a curse. What lay ahead, I had no idea, but I knew one thing for certain in this world. Nothing came without a price. I stepped out of the dimly lit meeting with Garvalt. The neon hues of the Undercity's streets a jarring contrast to the sinister tone of our encounter. The weight of his words still settling in, the promise of a choice that would alter the course of humanity's destiny echoing in my mind. I pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand, retrieving the orb from Arcturus. I made my way to the city's lower districts, avoiding the roving patrols of Rineth's enforcers. My destination was a seedy bar on the outskirts, a hotbed of mercenary activity. Rumors placed Arcturus there, basking in the attention of would-be suitors, and sipped on overpriced drinks. As I entered the bar, the air was thick with smoke and bravado. I scanned the room, my gaze settling on a statuesque woman with alabaster skin and raven-black hair. Arcturus. Her piercing green eyes locked onto me, and a cruel smile spread across her lips. Ambrose Wynter, the savior of humanity. How quaint. I approached her, my hand resting on the grip of my sidearm. Arcturus, I've heard so much about you. Flattery will get you nowhere, Wynter. What do you want? The orb. Garvalt wants it back. Arcturus chuckled, the sound like ice shattering on stone. Oh, that little trinket, Garvalt's precious family heirloom. I'm afraid it's not for sale. I'm not here to buy it, I replied, my tone even. Arcturus raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Then what do you propose? I leaned in, my voice taking on a conspiratorial tone. Let's discuss the terms. Perhaps we can come to a mutually beneficial arrangement. Her gaze narrowed, but I saw the faintest glimmer in her eyes, curiosity. She was a mercenary after all, always on the lookout for an opportunity to advance her own interests. Very well, Wynter. Let's talk. But be warned, I drive a hard bargain. I smiled, a calculated risk unfolding in my mind. I'm shaking with fear, Arcturus. As we negotiated, I sensed Garvalt's words lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce. Be prepared to make a choice, one that will change the course of your life and the fate of humanity. I pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task at hand. But the weight of that warning lingered, like a shadow waiting to strike. The neon lights of the bar flickered, casting an eerie glow on Arcturus' face as we negotiated. Her demands were steep, but I knew I had to persuade her. I'll give you a fleet of advanced ships, complete with cutting-edge tech and a crew of elite pilots, I said, trying to sweeten the deal. Arcturus raised an eyebrow. You're offering me a small armada, Wynter. What's the catch? No catch, I replied, my tone even. Just a token of goodwill. You help me, and I'll make sure your entrepreneurial ventures receive a significant boost. She leaned back in her chair, her eyes locked onto mine. I want more. I want a guaranteed seat at the table when humanity takes its rightful place as a dominant power. I hesitated, weighing the risks. Garvalt's words echoed in my mind, warning me that this was the kind of deal that could change the course of humanity's destiny. But I pushed forward, driven by the need to secure the orb. "Fine," I said, extending my hand. "Y'all get your seat at the table and more. But in return, y'all hand over the orb and agree to support humanity in the upcoming council meeting." Arcturus' gaze narrowed, her eyes flashing with intrigue. "You drive a hard bargain, Wynter," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "But I suppose I can live with that." We sealed the deal with a handshake, the weight of our agreement settling in like a shroud. I knew I had just made a gamble that would either pay off in dividends or come back to haunt me. As I left the bar, the orb secure in my possession, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had just stepped into a trap, one that would force me to confront the depths of my own ambition. The streets of the Undercity more treacherous than ever before, Rineth's enforcers closing in. I knew I had to move fast to get the orb to safety before Garvalt's words came back to haunt me. I made my way to the hidden safe house, the orb clutched tightly in my hand. As I entered, I was greeted by the familiar face of my most trusted ally, Ilara. "Ambrose, I see you secured the orb," she said, her eyes scanning me for signs of betrayal. I handed it over, a sense of relief washing over me. "It's done." "But at what cost, I wonder?" Ilara's expression turned somber. "You know as well as I do, Ambrose. The cost of our rise to power will be steep, but we'll face it together as one." I nodded, a sense of determination burning within me. Together, we would face the consequences of our choices and forge a path forward no matter the cost. As I turned to leave, a new message awaited me from an unknown sender. The words made my blood run cold. "You've made a grave mistake, Ambrose. One that will cost you everything. Meet me at the old clock tower in the abandoned zone if you want to know the truth." The clock tower, a place where secrets were traded and lives were gambled. I knew I had to go, driven by a morbid curiosity. What secrets lay in wait, and what would be the true cost of my ambition? I gazed out the window, the dimly lit streets of the Undercity, a reminder of the dangers that lurked in every alleyway. The message had sent a shiver down my spine, the words echoing in my mind like a death sentence. I knew I had to investigate, to peel back the layers and uncover the truth. "Ambrose, what's wrong?" Ilara asked, her voice laced with concern. I turned to face her, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. "A message. It seems someone wants to meet with me to discuss the consequences of my actions." Her eyes narrowed. "What does it say?" I handed her the comms device, watching as she scanned the message. Her expression darkened, a hint of worry etched on her lips. "We should be cautious," she said, her voice low. "This could be a trap, I know. But I have to know what secrets they are hiding." I glanced around the room, my mind racing with possibilities. "I'll take Rineth with me, just in case." Ilara nodded, her hand on the hilt of her blaster. "I'll prepare the team. We'll be ready for anything." As we made our way to the clock tower, the abandoned zone loomed before us like a ghost town. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the creaking of rusty hinges and the distant hum of machinery. I kept my blaster close, my senses on high alert. Rineth flanked me, her presence a reassuring presence in the darkness. We reached the clock tower, the entrance a twisted mass of corroded metal and broken gears. I pushed open the door, my heart pounding in anticipation. A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness. The air was heavy with anticipation. "Ambrose Wynter," the figure said, its voice like a sigh on the wind. "You've made a grave mistake, one that will cost you everything." I raised my blaster, the metal cold against my palm. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure stepped forward, its features slowly emerging from the darkness. I gasped, my heart racing with shock. It was a face I knew, one that had haunted my memories for centuries. "You," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You're dead. I saw you die." The figure smiled, its eyes glinting with a malevolent light. "Death is just a minor setback, Ambrose. One that can be overcome with the right technology, and I have it." I took a step back, my mind reeling with the implications. This was impossible. This was a lie. "What do you want?" I repeated, my hand tightening around my weapon. "Oh, Ambrose, I want to show you the true cost of your ambition. The cost of humanity's rise to power." The figure raised its hand, a small device clutched in its palm. "This is just the beginning." The device hummed to life, casting an eerie blue glow across the clock tower's decrepit walls. I tensed, my instincts screaming warnings. Rineth stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the figure, her hand hovering over her own weapon. "What is that?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "A little something I've acquired," the figure replied, its voice dripping with malice. "A technology that will reshape the galaxy. And you, Ambrose, will be the catalyst." I raised my blaster, my finger hovering over the trigger. "I won't let that happen." The figure chuckled, the sound sending shivers down my spine. "You have no idea what you're up against. This technology will render your precious humanity impotent, and I'll be the one to bring it about." Rineth growled, her eyes blazing with fury. "We won't let that happen," she snarled, her blaster materializing in her hand. The figure raised its hand and the air seemed to ripple. The device emitted a high-pitched whine and I felt the world slowing around me. Time itself seemed to stutter, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. "No," I whispered, my vision blurring. Rineth's voice was a distant echo. "Ambrose, I've got your back." But it was too late. The world around me dissolved into chaos. Colors blurred, sounds distorted, and I felt myself being pulled through a vortex of madness. When my vision cleared, I found myself standing in the heart of a ravaged metropolis. Buildings around me were in ruin, their walls torn apart, their steel beams twisted like skeletal fingers. The air was heavy with the stench of smoke and ozone. A figure emerged from the wreckage, its face a twisted mockery of humanity's greatest achievements. Cybernetic limbs, glowing circuits, and cold, calculating eyes. It was a being of unspeakable horror. "Welcome, Ambrose," it said, its voice a mechanical hiss, "to the future you've created. A future where humanity is nothing but a relic." I stumbled backward, my mind reeling with the implications. This was the true cost of humanity's rise to power. This was the price of our ambition. Rineth's voice echoed in my mind, her words a distant memory. "We won't let that happen." But I was alone. Rineth was nowhere to be seen. I was trapped in this twisted world, forced to confront the darkness that lurked at the heart of humanity's greatest achievement. I knew then that I had to find a way out. I had to stop this madness, to reclaim the future that humanity had stolen. But how?